The strength challenge is a little bit more obvious. The spirit guide here is a strong ox who delights in testing mortals by examining their combat prowess. When you click on him, he will create a snake in front of you. You must defeat the snake in order to win the strength guide's approval and the essence of strength. The catch here is that if you lose, you can't go to hell because you're already there. Evan Vessels programmed the strength guide and dealt with this issue, as well as the fact that a dead player can damage only creatures that are in hell. This forces a player to escape the line of the dead if they want to continue the game. Finally, there's the challenge of skill. This requires more fast twitch ability than the other two, so avid players of Tetris and Pac-Man will be more at home here. The spirit guide is a girl who died young because she coveted gold. She delights in trickery and enjoys her power as a spirit guide. In order to pass her test, the player must quickly run around the level to pick up soul orbs in order to get points. If the player picks up a tombstone, they lose points. The skull bats that circle around can also cause trouble. They will try to take the spirit balls from the player. If he manages to get 50 points, the spirit guides award the player with the essence of skill. Natalie McLaughlin programmed the Wit Challenge. The code for it was originally a simple whack-a-mole style game, but he adapted it to work with all the elements previously mentioned. This makes it a much more interesting challenge. Now that the player has won all 3 challenges and gathered all the essences, he can pass beyond the gate that leads to Satan's room. It's a long, sparsely populated place, with the big boss himself waiting hungrily at the end. He is currently not a very difficult villain because we didn't balance his stats yet. It takes only a few hits to take him down, unlike the robot leader. If the player were to lose this battle, however, their essences of strength, wit, and skill would also be removed. This makes challenging Satan a risky venture. Only the strongest player should attempt to defeat him. Andy Bone designed Satan, giving him the very menacing look you can see right now. Once the player has finished at least one challenge, he has the option of creating the boat that will take him back out of the land of the dead. This boat returns him to his previous location where he died, making it so that death isn't a huge penalty. Now let's check out the Labyrinth world, which is the second level. It's a giant formidable labyrinth with plenty of secrets and treasures. In order to reach the boss, the player must find the 4 runes hidden in each corner of the labyrinth. This is an example of one of the corners, once again with chocobo placeholders. Here is one of the secret rooms, hidden behind some hanging vines. The player can push through the vines and reach the chests within, which haven't yet been modeled and so are represented by boxes. Once again, there should also be monsters in the labyrinth, but we didn't have enough time to place them all. In fact, we discovered that Second Life was not fast enough to support as many monsters as we wanted. Finally, the player has acquired all 4 runes and can reach the boss room. Just like the other monsters in this level, the boss has not been placed yet. For now, let's just go back to the police headquarters. Now that we beat the first 2 levels, we can take the ship to the 3rd level, the elevator section, as having a boat the water is one adult case is characterized because small islands, just like police sections, giant waves, and fire, natural, flying has a large dangerous yes, each has different features and traps are the waves that you can see along the sides. The fire realm is inhabited by fire elementals who normally will attack, and if they hit the player, then he will take some damage because we ran out of time. Similarly, if the player walks off one of the islands into the water, exploding balls of fire and jets of flame on shore, which can damage you if you walk into them. The end of the fire realm is a large volcano that must be climbed in order to access the dire enemies of the fire elementals. It can be slightly difficult to traverse, and the player is lucky that the volcano is not erupting as he walks up it. If he were to get hit by one of its lava balls, he would take a significant amount of damage. The Earth realm is much more similar to the Fire realm than it is the Water one, although it has its own distinct characteristics as well. It is dominated by giant stalactites, boulders, and clumps of dirt. It's a little bit more maze-like than the previous two sections, which is because the levels get more difficult as it goes on. The elementals here are small rock and nature creatures, with leaves for faces and dirt-covered granites for their bodies. They are the direct enemies of the sky elementals, which we will see next. The final section of the Earth realm is very similar to the Fire one in that it is a mountainous slope that must be navigated. Unlike the volcano, however, it shoots no fire. Stalactites can drop on the player's head at any moment. Slightly different. Once the player has reached the top of the small mountain, they can move on. The final area is the Air realm, which exists above the Earth realm. It is chiefly inhabited by giant stone spires that the player can walk upon, although there are giant holes beneath. Normally the correct path would be highlighted by floating air particles, but unfortunately our landed second life was reset, and so the particles turned off. That makes this area a little bit more difficult to navigate than it would have been, which can lead to mistakes. When the player takes a wrong turn, they fall through the hole and back down to the Earth level, forced to start over again. Once they figure out the path, however, they should be able to proceed with little frustration, aside from needing to combat the nearby floating air elementals, which aren't too happy that the player is trespassing. After they have been dealt with, the player can be on his way to fighting the boss. The boss is a giant conglomeration of all four elementals, and is truly hideous to behold. During the battle, he can split into 4 pieces, sending different elite elementals after you. He doesn't have a script in just like the other monsters, however, so we'll just go back to the police headquarters and finish the game. After you have fixed the space-time continuum in all 3 worlds, you are violently thrown from your ship. Fortunately, you fall through a black hole and end up safe. At the other end of the black hole, however, is your own commander. You discover that he's actually a member of a very self-centered alien race and is bent on controlling everything using an evil machine, and you've been doing his dirty work all along. The final boss rides on top of a giant diabolical machine, which is unfortunately not pictured here. However, you can get one last glimpse at all the game's bosses. I hope you've enjoyed seeing everything that All Access Video Game Design created. It's been a pleasure. I very much enjoyed myself with this class. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to show you everything that we actually did make. This is because the Second Life LAN was deleted before I ended up making a video capture of everything. One of the biggest portions of the game that you wouldn't have managed to see was the player versus player dojo, which allowed any number of players to get together and fight. They could either fight in a free-for-all arena or in duel arenas one-on-one. Whenever players were fighting, other players could come in and place bets on who they thought the winner would be. It was very interesting and worked perfectly, and took as much effort as all of the other levels. Unfortunately, I just couldn't get a video of it. However, it's been great. I'm glad that you watched this whole thing. Thank you very much for watching.